Sorry for that interruption. We had a brief internet problem. But let me continue. So I said, you, we must try to connect and remove the fence out of the relationship. I want to recommend that friends and family be not presented when you want your time together. No, no friend. This may mean that after everything has been scheduled, there's little time left for friends and relatives. That's the case, you are too busy, but at least you will not sacrifice your love for each other. Thirdly, I recommend that you understand what giving undivided attention means. It's what you did when you were dating. You probably would not have married if you have ignored each other on dates. You may have park your car somewhere just to be completely alone and to rid yourself of all distraction. That's the quality of undivided attention I'm referring to here. When you see a movie together, the time you're watching it doesn't count towards your time for undivided attention. No, it's the same with television and sporting events. When you have undivided attention, you should engage in those. In fact, undivided attention means you are with just the two of you, about the two of you. You should engage in recreational activity together, yes, but the time needed for undivided attention is different. It is time to pay close attention to each other. Close attention to each other. Now that you're alone with each other, what should you do with this time? This brings me into the second coloring, the objective of being alone together. During the time you're together, create activities that will meet the emotional need of affection, the sexual fulfillment, conversation, and recreational companionship. Don't talk about no light bill, don't talk no water rate, no talk about no bill, no talk about no. Just bond. Romance, and that this is what a lot of women don't understand. Romance for most men is sex and recreation. For most women, it's affection and conversation. When all four come together, men and women alike call it what? Romance. And they deposit the most love unit possible at that stage. That makes these categories somewhat inseparable whenever you spend time together. My advice to you is to try to combine them all. After marriage, women often try to get their husband to meet their emotional need for conversation and affection. Without they meeting the husband need for sex and recreational companionship. Men, on the other hand, want their wife to meet their needs for sexual fulfillment, and recreational companionship without meeting their wife needs for affection and conversation. Neither strategy works very well. Women often resent having sex without affection and conversation first. And men resent being conversant and affectionate with no hope of sex or recreation. By combining the fulfillment of the four needs into a single event, however, both spouses have their need met and enjoy the entire time together. So the conversation, the affection, the recreation, and the sex will make the both of your time together an enjoyable one. A man should never assume that just because he's in bed with his wife, sex is there for the taking. Can I say that again? A man should never assume that because he's in bed with his wife, sex is there for the taking. No. In many marriages, that mistake creates resentment and confusion She want to talk, she want just to cuddle and just, and she want a listening ear. You want sex. And it create chaos, confusion, and resentment. Most men eventually learn that if they spend the evening giving their wife their undivided attention with conversation and affection, sex becomes a very natural and mutually enjoyable way to end the evening. But there are some women who don't see the connection either. They want their husband to give them the most attention when there is no possibility for sex. And ladies, you need to understand men are wired for sex. Man is a sexual being. So most women still not get the connection yet. They want their husband to give them the most attention when there is no possibility for sex. In fact, knowing that affection and intimate conversation often lead a man to wanting sex. Once you start talking to a man in an intimate way, all part of him starts scratching. Once that you have that kind of conversation, you get affection, you rub him head, you draw him ears, you nibble upon him earlobe, and you pinch him, and all of them look at him. When you start getting that, it's going to lead a man to want it to say. They try their hardest to be affectionate. Many women try their hardest to be affectionate when they are out in a crowd. They hold you and them bounce against the car. You know you can't have sex with them out there. So that kind of tactics can lead to just as much resentment in a man as nightly sexual ambushes created in a woman. Take my word for it. The fulfillment of the four needs of affection, conversation, recreation, companionship, and sexual fulfillment is best when they are met together. And third calorie is amount, privacy, objective, and amount. How much time do you need to sustain the feeling of love for each other? Believe it or not, my friend, there really is an answer to this question. No, I can't give an answer for that. You might say, how much time is needed for to sustain the feeling of love for each other? I can't give you that. It depends on the health of the marriage. How healthy is the marriage? If the marriage is a life support machine, it needs a whole heap of time. If the marriage is feeling some ache and pain, it might not need as much time as it needs with those on the life support, but it still needs a whole heap more time. If a couple is deeply in love with each other and find that their marital needs are being met, we have found out that about 15 hours each week of undivided attention is usually enough to sustain their love. Soon get how we're going to break that down. When a marriage is this healthy, either it's a new marriage or the couple has already been spending that amount of time with each other throughout the marriage, without 15 hours of you understand that the fire does light. Without 15 hours of undivided attention each week, a couple simple can't do what it takes to sustain their feeling of love for each other. Somebody said it depends on the nature of your relationship. We are talking about a relationship that building it and keeping it healthy or restoring it. I mean, the relationship can't, when you have a healthy relationship, you want to spend time with each other. Your work might take you away, but you still talk to each other. And when the both of you come together, you put the work aside and get to spend quality time so that the bonding take place and you don't drift away. As I have observed the quality and quantity of undivided attention given in romantic relationship, I find that while sometimes it's given almost daily, Significant dates are scheduled several times a week. Many of us stop dating our spouse from we get married. Stop dating. And then we look at other people marriage and say, oh, it look healthy and all right. And then we say to ourselves, say, why our one can't do it? They're still dating. They still flirt with each other. They still enjoy each other company. And remember, this kind of thing I'm talking about, yeah, is a godly, a relationship that is godly, spirit led. Even though many of you are listening and not saved, you need God in the midst of your marriage to direct it. I find that while sometimes it's given almost daily, significant dates are scheduled several times a week. These dates usually take about 3 or 4 hours. The time that it takes to meet all four of the intimate emotional needs to the satisfaction of both spouse. Because I can go on a gate and I am satisfied with sitting here talking to you for an hour or two. You just ready to get into it. Let me say, let's go. I'm going to go home. I have other things. I have church work to do. I have business to do. You have this to do. And you still left unsatisfied. You're still not. You figure something is still lacking in the relationship. So while some form of emotional connection should be made throughout the week, if the 4 intimate emotional needs are to be met effectively, a 4-hour date is usually required. And we can't think that is too much to give our spouse once per week. We can't think that is too much. I don't care how much you are burdened down with. You need to spend time with each other, because whether you believe it or not, she might not go to work with you, but she is there. When you come home stressed from work, and you can pour out on her and she'll be there to listen to you, to encourage you. Likewise, when you come home and, I've seen it. And you get recharged to go back. You get renewed to go back to fight the battle and to stand up at work. The reason, I and many counselors have getting difficult to get in couple to spend time alone together is that when you first see them for counseling, they are not in love. Many times you meet people, and I'm going to talk about that, loving and being in love. That I will explain, not deceiving, many times, but I'm going to tell you the difference between being in love and loving. Many people, when you meet them, generally, when people come to counseling, you find out many of them are fall out of love or not in love. Their relationship does not do anything for them. And the time spent with each other seems like a total waste of time. But when they spend time together, they learn to recreate the romantic experience that first nurtured their true relationship or their love relationship. Without that time, they have little hope of restoring the love they once had for each other. You might say, boy, Pastor, it's tough. But starting all over again, if you want it to make, as one songman says, starting all over again, it's going to be rough. But I know that the Lord will help us make it. 15 hours a week is usually not nearly enough time for couples that are not yet in love. You're a couple, but you're not in love. You fall out of love. Still living together. Still doing what is expected of you, but you're not in love. So you need more than 15 hours a week. To help such couple jumpstart the relationship, I will suggest 25 to 30 hours a week of undivided attention until you both are in love with each other. We spend a lot of time, I talk to those of us who are in church, and church activity ensuring that church are run right. When our homes are falling apart, our relationship not ready. You come into church, and the husband drive, but you have to take a taxi or a bus come to church. He won't drive you to church because he's so busy with other things. And I know some of you might be saying, yes, purpose, sometimes you don't have anything. You know your wife have to come to church. In fact, she alone should not be coming to church. You should be accompanying her. So you need to spend more time to relight the fire. So the help you jumpstart, you need 20 or 30 hours a week of undivided attention until you are both in love with each other again. Your time together is too important to the security of your marriage. Too important to the security of your marriage for you to neglect it. Your time together is too important to the security of your marriage to neglect it. It is more important that time spent doing anything else during the week, including time with your children, time on your job. Remember that the time you should set aside is only equivalent to a part-time job. It isn't time you don't have. It's time you will use for something less important if you don't use it for each other. Please use your time for each other to help you plan your week with each other and plan it around each other emotional need in mind. I encourage you, so when you're not well, I can say it yet. I encourage you to meet your spouse about 3:30 every Sunday afternoon to look over the both of your schedule for the coming week, and to be sure to have provided time for each other, so that in that coming week make time for each other. It's always a good idea to plan a little extra time in case of emergency. Always, always, always in case of emergency. So you need to put time in there in case of emergency. It's always good to plan a little extra time in case of emergency that may disrupt your 15 hour. Let me tell you something. You have 168 hours every week, 24/7, to schedule for something. I highly recommend 8 hours of sleep a night. So that will leave you 112 waking hours. Getting ready for the day and going to bed at night may require, say, 12 hours. And work plus commute may take another 50 hours. This leaves you with 50 hours to spend doing what you value most. And 15 of those hours should be dedicated to maintaining a passionate and fulfilling marriage. If you have not been in the habit of spending 15 hours a week for undivided attention, it will mean that something less important will have to go. Will have to go. The time around the computer, the time on the phone will have to go, so that you can start bonding again. But it will, when you spend these 15 hours together, it will radically change your life for better, because you will be investing in one of the single most important part of your life, your relationship with your spouse. And I'm going to talk about somewhere along the time where people about we don't spend time with each other and why women leave men. And I will talk about that as we continue, in our relationship corner. You see, you and your spouse fell in love with each other because you meet each other most important emotional needs. And the only way to stay in love is to keep meeting those needs, even when the feeling of love begins to fade. Ouch. Or when it's gone entirely. Yes, there are many people who are together where the feeling of love has faded, ashes covered. It is not dead yet. It has faded. Some has gone out entirely. No care you fan it and a blow upon it. It did. It is not necessarily gone. Even when your love begin to fear, when it's gone entirely, it is not necessarily gone for good. It can be recovered. Whenever you both of you go back to being an expert of making love bank deposit, both of you have to work at it. First, be sure you know what each other needs are. What is it that she wants, she expects of you? What is it he expects of you? Then you learn to meet those needs in a way that is fulfilling to your spouse and enjoyable for you too. In the next couple of minutes that we have, I like to start with the other one. The other right that you must expect. You have a right to in your relationship. You have a right to a partner who will try to work out your differences. Too many marriages, people don't try working out them differences. Too many times people don't try to work out their marriage differences. And if you're going into a relationship, you must be prepared to try to work out your relationship. Too many people, as they say, I do, as problem come, them say, I done. All long-term relationship encounter sore spot and conflict. Every one of them, all of them that we see are grown now, have been through many dangerous times and still they have already come. They have been through the hills, they have been in the valley, they have been a dark night. Ignoring your problem in your relationship won't make them go away. Sweeping them under the carpet won't make them go away. Too many people are unhappy in their relationship because they don't know that they have a right to a partner who will try to work it out. And sometimes you try to work it out and them tell you, say, I have no time now, I can't talk now. And they never have time to talk yet because as days go on, you never come back around to it. And as soon as another conflict comes, that add to it and it bring up back the old differences. Talking to yourself and acknowledging to yourself, say, boy, I made it wrong, so I should have talked to her, and I should have talked to him, or hear what him have to say. Don't solve the problem until you come to Mary or Jane and say, or Tom and say, hold on, I was wrong. What is it you have to say? Let me see if we can work it out, so that you don't continuously buck up on the same roadblock in your relationship. You see, many people ignore the problem, and if you ignore them, it won't make them go away. Even if the partner do so because they sincerely don't want to pick a fight. No relationship can thrive when two parties hold in frustration that need to be shared and be resolved. One clinical psychologist said, when couples stop trying to work out their differences and revert to passivity to keep the peace, they hold more and more inside of them and their alienation grows. That is a fact. The frustration tends to leak out through sarcastic, taunting remarks, through criticism, through complaining, through toxic behavior, thinly veiled criticism, or increasing inattention to the other person's needs. Addressing problems as they arise as a couple improve the spouse's psychological well-being and rating of marital quality, especially for women. Not in all women, but especially for women. Addressing problems as they arise improves spouse's psychological well-being and rating of marital quality, especially for women. Women always want to talk. So when someone say, all right, let me talk about it. Man, them say, boy, I'm tired, I don't have no time now. Yeah, some women don't want to talk about it. No, they're not talk about it. But it stays inside and it festers and it leaks out in sarcastic remark. It leaks out in a veiled criticism. It leaks out in inattention to the other person need, and it does leak out in how you treat the other person. So we need to address the problem so it can improve our psychological well-being. One study some years ago, one study of about a couple hundred married couple found that wife believed that their husband did more emotional work. That if their husband did more emotional work, were satisfied with their relationship. You hear what I'm saying? One study of married couple found that wife who believed that their husband did more emotional work were more satisfied with their relationship. Men, if that study is true, then we start being affectionate. We need to be conversational. Because the more emotional work we do, the more satisfied our wives will become. One difference is once differences are out in the open, even those that might have seemed irreconcilable in one imagination can often be addressed with a compromise or conscious agreement to disagree. You can learn to validate the hardcore differences that exist, and will always exist between you and your mate. I'll stop here. When we come back, I'll continue with this. You can send your question in the chat, and we will see, because this part we were talking about the right to a partner who will try to work out the differences is something that is needed in a lot of relations. Too many relationships are not trying to work out the differences. We internalize them, and that is why I saw some man end up killing the woman. Some woman move out with the man furniture and gone somewhere else and all kind of. Some people take it out on the children. Then we need to learn how to work out our differences, not by being pugilists, not by boxing each other, not by cutting down each other with our tongue and all of those things, not by defaming each other. In some relationship, I mean, it takes the grace of God for some people walk with them head hold up, because the way how they spouse criticize and describe them and always putting them down. I did not mean that they know that they're a person. They will have just said, sure, can't be bothered. And it is seen, some people dress. And how they walk with the shoulder drop, and they don't care anyway, because their spouse, they never can reason out. And that sometimes lead people, if you can't talk with your spouse, it sometimes drives some people to have emotional bonding with somebody else. And that is another thing you must have when you're going to marry. You need to make sure that the person that you can have proper conversation, because you can want it to talk about something and your spouse don't want to talk about it. That is I remember doing a program on a radio, and that was some of the qualities that you must find in the individual. What you talk about, and that is why you don't talk about just Bible when you're dating, because you're going to live together. Have conversation. If you enjoy talking about politics, you enjoy talking about world things, you will understand that if your partner is of the same ilk, some people you can't talk about music. They are very safe and things. You say, what you talk about? You know, see, because they don't, as long as it's not saying Jesus, they don't think it can be of any importance to them. So you have to understand all of that. So get married to somebody, to a partner who will try to work out your differences. Bow your heart. Father, we thank you for this evening, for everything that has been said and done. Glorify yourself and magnify your name. Thank you for those who have tuned in, and those who will watch, and those who will send their question, dear Father. Give grant wisdom to answer them appropriately. In Jesus' name, amen. Shalom and good night. Thank you all for viewing. Thank you all. Thank you all.